What's up, guys? So this is my surface plate inspection station in the shop, and I had built these drawers a few years back, maybe even 5 years ago now, and they are absolutely fantastic for storing tooling because this was all a dead space in here. But I have overloaded one of these drawers and it's a little sketchy to open, so I'm gonna upgrade the slides, and I just wanted to show you guys kind of before and after on this and the process I go through to do it. So this first drawer I did, and I don't think I got it perfectly square, so when you close it, it doesn't line up just right. So the new slides are 3/4 thick. The ones that I bought years ago, these are just kind of cheapo slides, are 1/2 inch. I think it's a 100-pound drawer slide, but these are pretty good sized drawers, and these top two are fine. But if I'm going to replace the bottom one, this one here is the one that's really failing. But if I'm going to replace that one, I might as well do all of them. And then also I'm going to do these locking slides. So they have a lock in here. So if I ever move this, I have to put a ratchet strap around these drawers so they don't pull open. So I did this one first, and I liked it so much, storing gauge pins and tooling. I built these two, and then later on, a few years later, I figured, well, let's build one more. I mean, it's a ton of work to do this, but it is nice for storage. So I need to go through and reorganize this. For now, it's just kind of a junk drawer. This is a 500-pound drawer slide. These are like 3 by 3/4 wall angle, so super robust. I can swap those for locking slides, but I'm probably just going to put a latch on there because that one's fine. I'm not really upgrading the capacity on that. So it's really just these three. So I'll show you. I just removed this one. I had my gauge pins in here, and then that's from 1/4 to 1/2, and then this is from 1/2 to 3/4, and then just other indicators. And then this is the one that really is giving me problems. So I have some really heavy shop-made pins here, these showed up on Craigslist years ago. I think I paid $100 for this set of pins, and the guy had made the case for them, and these are 5 thou increments plus the nominal. So if it had 13/16, it's what is that, 0.8125, and those are ground in, and it's a nice set to have. This goes up to 995, so then I have a 1-inch piece of like a precision ground rod for my 1-inch pin, and these are attachments for my stop on the mill. But you can see this one really is overloaded, and that slide is kind of failing. This one's failing, and one day that's all going to fall and I'm going to have a bad time. So figure now's the time to do it. And I 3D printed these little holders for these bars. These are fixed length stops for the mill, and I can finalize that. And then these pins are a little taller, so they didn't clear the drawer. So I had to kind of mount the plywood from the bottom. So my plan is, I'm making these all out of the same material, 1.5, 1.5, 3/16 angle. I'm going to mount the moving part of the slide at the bottom on the top two, and the bottom one will mount on the top, giving me another 1/2 inch of clearance. So we should have enough wiggle room. So these will be like, this will have a 1/2 inch more room. These are like 3.5. That'll be about 4 or whatever it works out to be. So other than that, this is just about done. This is a nice size plate, 2 by 3. Seems to be kind of the perfect size for just an average run-of-the-mill job shop. And I put a shelf up here for my height gauges before, and my surface gauges. These were tucked away. It's just one more thing to do to open that drawer, to take that out, to set it up. So the commonly used things, and I just leave out here on this shelf. I was doing another shelf, but then it's almost up too high. So and then I got these little bins from Harbor Freight. You can keep some overflow tooling in there while you're working, maybe. And this just seems to work well. I added the feet. I actually had casters on this originally, but it's almost impossible to move this around because this granite alone is 400 pounds. You got another probably 200-300 pounds in actual steel, and maybe another 100 pounds in tooling or so. So you're in about maybe 600 to 800 pounds. It did not want to move well, so I said just ditch the casters, and I get a pallet jack in here. The only thing is, I'd probably prefer those leveling feet to be further out, but I can offset my pallet jack because I weld it pads to the bottom of here that are tapped, so casters go in. So it's a little tricky with the pallet jack, but once this is in place, I don't really have to move it. I do have to move it in this coming week just to get the electrical done, or to get into this cabinet to set up the electrical for my chucker lathe. But other than that, this really is never going to move. So I don't plan to move it often. And when I do, I have a plan for everything that has to get moved. It's pallet jack, and you block it up unevenly, so you get like a 1/2 inch piece of plywood on one side, so it'll lift. Anyway, so we'll see the process of making these new drawers for the surface plate. So I'm here at the downdraft table, and for these pieces of angle that I'm going to use for the drawers, I'm just going to clean them up. So I'm going to TIG weld these. I want them all clean. I'll put a bevel on the back side and just get all that hot rolled off of there. And then I'll probably just run over them with the DA real fast. Random orbital sander for the woodworkers out there. Metal workers, we call it a DA. So shouldn't be too bad. I got, 3 boxes, so there are 12 of these total. So let me get started. I'm going to turn on the downdraft. Running this little 3-inch Dynabrade with an 80 grit. It's loud, but it's real nimble, so I can hold on to it really easily. I'm going to weld the back side because I'll probably grind these down afterwards, or maybe just weld them. And if there's a bevel there, the weld will be flush. Then it won't take much to clean it up. I got my airline set up here. I'm just going to run that 80 grit on this other Dynabrade sander I have. So that's about it. I'm not going to take off the hot rolled on these, but I'll hit them with the DA, go all around all the surfaces, so when I go to paint these, they're already kind of prepped. So all I have to do is wipe these down, weld them, and just do a little finish work when they're welded, and then they're ready for paint. So I can take the hot rolled off. It's just sometimes it's not worth it. It's a ton of work. So. So this is my Kentucky gauge setup. This is essentially a giant pair of digital calipers. So I come in and I zero this side of the gauge to this stop here. And then I'm going to put those frames inside the cold saw vise here. And I'm going to come up and measure the width. So I'm going to do that because I need to know which ones are where they're at. Because I measured the inside of the frame of the surface plate. And it's 32 inches. I have a fixed length bar that's 32. The top has a little bit of play. The bottom's, the second one's very tight. The bottom one doesn't go. So I know that it's tapered a little bit. And I set these frames at 32 inches when I made them on my fixture table. But I left a little gap on the, for when they're welded, when they get welded, they're going to suck in a little bit. I don't know how much they're going to suck in. So I'm going to bring them over here and measure them, show you guys how I do that. So then when I go to assemble them, I know I can put the widest one up top because that has the most clearance, and then work my way down. So I've already did do a test fit on them, and it was tight, but it felt pretty good. So those slides are tricky because you can't really go any wider, and you can't go any thinner too on the width. So I've done that where I made them maybe a 16th under, and there's just all this play in them, and so you really need to hit that number right on. So I'll bring you in and show you guys how I'm doing that. So I have this frame in the vise of the cold saw registering on the outfeed stop. So I have the infeed stop coming up, which has been zeroed to that outfeed stop, and I'm measuring 31.989. So I'll write that down, 0.989. So now I know this is under 32 by, about 11 thousandths, 64th of an inch or so. So that should be perfect for that, if that spacing is at 32 on the surface plate. So I'm going to flip this and measure the other side. So now this one measures 31.985. So very close, within a couple thousandths, but this is absolutely perfect for what I wanted. So I set this at 32 on the fixture table, and it shrank just enough. So this should have the right amount of clearance for those drawer slides to go into that surface plate. So I'll bring you up closer and just show you how I zero this stop. So I'll bring this down, and I'm zeroing this. So I've already zeroed that. Now essentially I have a 12-foot digital caliper going to the left, and I can move this up to about 5.5 feet. So works out to be about 17.5-foot digital caliper. Just comes in handy sometimes when you do need to measure something. And I have a caliper up to 24 inches, but this just works that much better. So I'm here on my fixture table. I'm going to do the layout for these drawer slides. So they're already mounted in the actual surface plate cabinet, or the body of the frame. So now I'm going to add the slides, and I'll bring it a little closer and show you actually how I have this fixtured. So I have these frames registering on these stops, and then I have the Fireball tool shims against that stop pushing on the drawer slide, so they're registered to the back because these are set in at about a 1/2 inch in. And then I'm using these adjustable center punches. Since this is real thin here, I'll just show you. So I'll come in, and I want to be on this hole here, and these are just tap them down, and I got clamps to the frame, so that's it. And then come down, this is the next one. Usually have to unscrew that so you can get a good fit. So there we go, and that's it. That's enough to find those, and I'll go in with a larger center punch and then punch them before I drill them. So I'm going to come in here, open up these adjustable center punches, which work very well for thin material, and then just use my bopper, and that's it. And that's enough to put a mark in there. All right, so now after I center punched the frames for the slides, I mounted on the side of the table, and I'm going to go in with a little beefier punch here and just land that in there. Oh, there's my hammer there. And we're going to open these up. So just makes it a little easier to find. Okay. This one's up here in the front. And then, so I'm going to do 3 quarter-20s on this. So the slides that are mounted in the frame have some play. These don't really have any play. So I'm going to run quarter-20s on this. It's easier to drill this off on the bench here. On the inside the frame, I have to crawl in there and drill and tap those. So I did a 1024 smaller thread. It's just a little easier to do. So I'll bring you in a little closer and show you how I'm doing this. Okay, I'll start with this one here in the middle. So I use a transfer punch through these big gator drill guides, and you know, if you're patient, this works pretty well for these large assemblies. So I'll come in, clamp that down, make sure that doesn't move positions. Let's see if I have enough clearance here. So then I like to kind of just tap this, make sure it's where we were. Take a look at it. That looks good. And we're going to drill that out. So I'm going to come in and just check it. And that looks to be where it needs to be at there. Add some anchor lube. All right. So since I have this set up, I'll just tap it. So I'm doing these quarter-20. So I'm just going to hold this one down so it doesn't require as much force. And that's it. Yeah, these tap guides from Big Gator Tool have really saved me. So just a good setup, especially with that transfer punch. So here's the surface plate all done. Got the drawers back in there. All in all, it came together pretty nice. So I had to fight these 2 drawers just a little bit. Like I said earlier, they were just slightly a little too wide. And they ended up working out just fine. This top drawer had maybe a 64th of play total, and that one actually opened very smoothly. These 2 took a little adjustment, but they're fine, especially with weight in them. You can't tell. So I'll just show you how it functions. You got these 2 locks here. This opens up. So not as much weight on this one. These are my pins from 60 thousandths to ½ inch. And then these are some Deltronic pins, just the nominal. This came with actually this chucker lathe here, and I decided, well, they're kind of too cool not to keep. And so I have like 1/8, 3/16, quarter, 3/8. Then they're 12 up, 12 down. So you open these up here. Let's see what this one is. This is an 1/8 inch. I don't know if you can see them from there, but there's 12 pins. So I thought they'll go in there. Some of my surface gauges, and I'll show you the next drawer. So this one, more pins, and then just more kind of metrology related stuff like my gauge blocks, angle blocks. So I'll show you the pins here. So that's from 1/2 to 5/8, and then from, I think this has to go forward. That was the trick, from 5/8 to 3/4. So, and then you got these nice latches here. And then the last one, this is the one that I really had to fix because I had it overloaded. So these are fixed length stops that I run on the Kurt Weiss on the milling machine. These bolt onto this edge technology stop, so I can zero it at a fixed length and then come up and type my offset in. So those are in the front here. I 3D printed these little holders, And actually, I used these to measure the interior of the frame. Like I said, this one was a little over 32, and then these ones were slightly under. So, and then my other gauge pins, these are really cool. I picked these up a few years back. Guy made the stands for these. So these are shop built, and they're in 5,000 increments plus the nominal. So this was already all built. So I took it apart and cleaned it before I finished this project. So, and then again, these open and close very nicely now. And then the bottom, I ended up just leaving because if I do move this, I can just put a clamp, like a quick grip clamp on the actual frame and the drawer. So this opens up, and you know, there's just some overflow down here, more metrology stuff, but these are definitely finished. This'll change up a little bit here and there. So, and this one already had these are 500-pound slides. So those are 250. So, but yeah, that's all done now, and I'm happy with how it came out. So it's just fun to kind of knock out these projects in the shop when I get a chance. And this one will be done hopefully forever now. I don't plan to modify this again. That's a ton of work doing all this stuff. Another thing I did when I set this bottom drawer in is that you can see I set it, I think, a 1/2 inch lower. So these are on the center, and then this one's a 1/2 inch lower because these pins were tall. And before I had to bring the wood up from the bottom so it was flush with the angle iron frame. But you can see I just barely got enough clearance there. And then I put these small pins in the back. I don't know if you can see these. Because once these were in the back, you couldn't actually get them out the back row. So I figured, well, I'd rather not have all the weight in the middle here in the front. But these slides are pretty durable, and I don't use those back ones that much. So that's that.